Good morning, everyone. The first thing is I'd please ask that we're going to make a presentation, and I'll try to speak as loud as I can since we don't have a mic ourselves, and we're live streaming it. So I'll ask that all questions await the end of the presentation. The presentation's going to take a little bit, not as long as you were worried about, but indeed we have some other people here to talk about. With me today, to my right, is Dr. Gary Brucato, who is a clinical and forensic psychologist, researcher, and nationally known author for his work in the areas of violence, including serial killing, especially serial killing, mass murder, and sexual offenses, as well as severe mental illnesses. He's a visiting scholar at Boston College, an expert on the Cold Case Foundation panel. He's worked at Columbia University, the New York State Psychiatric Institute, and he's co-created the Columbia Mass Murder Database, the largest and most definitive study of mass murder ever conducted. He's written nearly 100 articles, peer-reviewed articles, and he's written a well-known book in this field called The New Evil: Understanding the Emergence of Modern Violent Crime. He co-authored that with another doctor. He's presently working in several forensic training programs, and he's a friend of mine, and he's been working with me on this case over the course of approximately a year. So he's here today to do some explaining and connecting of the dots that I'm going to put out there for you with what we have learned, what we have discovered. First, I have nothing but admiration for the work of the District Attorney Ray Tierney and his task force in their use of technology and DNA. But we disagree on two very important subjects: the murder of Shannan Gilbert and the suspicion of culpability of the family of Rex Heuermann. I've been the gatekeeper in this case, or these cases, going all the way back to the end of 2011 until now. And I'm going to continue in that role. And just so it's clear, because we've heard critics, I have not made one penny in this case from anyone, and the man I sued has no money. We will make no money in all the work that I have done from the beginning. We're not in this for the money, and never have been. I'm in pursuit of Shannan Gilbert's killers and the full truth and the facts and circumstances surrounding all of these murders, as I've been from the beginning. I represent that family, the Gilbert family, and I represent several victims' families of Rex Heuermann who survived him and were attacked by him or stalked by him. So I'm not here today, by the way, to just speak about exclusively about Shannan, but I'm here to speak about what we have discovered regarding one of the children and the implications of that for the family. Now, look, if you're of the school that you say all that happened to Shannan Gilbert was a coincidence, all those things were coincidences and circumstantial evidence only, no matter how strong the evidence was or is, you say it's not proof enough to suggest that she was murdered, then you don't stay here, you don't need to, and you don't need to watch this conference on streaming on the internet, because you will be disappointed. Most of the things that we know happened, we know from circumstantial evidence. And what we have here is circumstantial evidence. But if you're able to accept that circumstantial evidence can be strong, as a great lawyer once said, as when you find a trout in the milk, that circumstantial evidence can be filled with right-minded inferences, real inferences, inescapable conclusions. This conference is for you. I'm thinking I had a case with a newly constructed wall which tipped over and broke a worker's legs. And it wasn't hard to believe that the wall was defective even though nobody saw it tipping. That's circumstantial evidence. That's what we have here. You will see today that Rex Heuermann's porn is matched by his daughter's tastes, his daughter's work. You will see that we are not talking here about, what should I call it, merely murder. I say it ironically. We're talking about people who are involved and interested in torture, horrifying torture of the people we know are now dead, and many more yet to come. We are talking about the potentiality of cannibalism, hardcore. We are talking about the use of porno to effect what has happened. So allow me now to pull back the curtain. You know a person by the company he keeps. Do any of us deny that? You know a person by what they read, what they look at, and that's especially today with the internet. The choices they make, of which there are many. You know about people who agree with you, what you say, what you do, who have the same experiences as you have, who have done what you have done. We know you by the friends you keep. We know you by reputation. The things which in essence reflect you and your experiences. Now, this is Victoria Heuermann. All right, we're giving out this is the first packet. There will be two. And all of this will be online as well. So if we run out, forgive me. By the way, the full color ones were extremely expensive, and we have a budget. We say that the evidence we have, and this is just the beginning of the evidence you will see today, the evidence that we have suggests that we've been sold a story by the Heuermann family. Take a look at the first page and the picture that's to the right. That's Victoria Heuermann as she tried to appear to the press when you first confronted her at the home in Massapequa Park. There she is in her little girl's uniform. She's 27 years old with a school bag draped over her. Her hair in a nice little bun. Very innocent looking person. The other picture is also Victoria Heuermann, as she really is, as she portrays herself on the internet, as she actually looks. We've been sold a bill of goods. If you look at her artwork, in the top page, her artwork consists that she posted online of a human skull. That's just the beginning. After the indictments, oddly enough, and you folks took the picture, you see Victoria Heuermann walking out, I believe from her house. And I thought it was odd when I saw it. But you'll notice she's wearing a shirt that depicts, right after her father is indicted, for these murdered women, it depicts a human skeleton. That's what she's wearing. I'm going to show you what she's looking at on the internet. And please, do not indulge in moral posturing that I am merely shaming her, who is also a victim of sorts, and she is a victim for sure of her family. Don't do that because she's a 27-year-old woman who tore off the cloak of victimhood when she chose to take a handsome profit for herself and for her lawyer from Peacock for openly displaying the pretend picture of this innocent girl, little girl persona who had nothing to do with what went on in that house. She did that at the real victim's expense for a price. She herself marketed her false image. Her true self, a vastly different self, is fair game because of what she's done. What she has witnessed, what she has perhaps gone beyond witnessing, you draw the inference. I'm not going to feed it to you. You draw the inference. Here is my assistant, an expert technician, Lena Odgett, who's going to explain to you these posters and how we came to acquire them and how we can be sure they are from the daughter. So I've introduced Lena, my assistant Nani, and Frances Nakotra, who's a co-administratrix for the estate of Shannon Gilbert and the estate of Mary Gilbert, and has worked with me on these cases for years. Now, Lena's going to talk to you about the technical side of these pictures.
We can be reasonably certain that the Tumblr blog, which is what these pictures come from, that the Tumblr account and blog in question, attached to the username Vinandimadtour, is operated by Victoria Heuermann for various reasons. First, we see from Victoria's LinkedIn her profile picture. This same profile picture is identical to a selfie posted to the Tumblr account. Vinandimadtour, on June 10th, 2018, posted alongside art signed Victoria Heuermann, 12/1/15, as well as a clay modeling of a human skull. Second, Victoria, on her LinkedIn, links to a now defunct website with the URL www.vinandimadtour.art, which presumably once showcased her artwork. You'll notice that this website URL mirrors the username of the Tumblr account and is likely a reference to an Icelandic word or phrase, which I'll talk about later. For reference, Victoria's now deleted Instagram also used this handle username. The same website is also linked in Victoria's Tumblr's biography. If you navigate to Victoria's Tumblr, you will find a tab to view her posts, as well as a tab to view a list of the accounts she follows on Tumblr. Her posts consist of her artwork, some of which is included in the digital file that I will be sharing with everybody today, and printed for you in the packet we will be circulating. And on her Tumblr profile, a single reblog. A reblog on Tumblr is when one reposts a post from another blog onto one's own blog. This single reblog made by Victoria is from an account which specializes in the production and distribution of illustration furry pornography. The reblog post is of the user, which Victoria follows, advertising where their content can be found beyond Tumblr, right before Tumblr effected a ban on adult content. For those who are unfamiliar, a furry is someone who is an enthusiast for anthropomorphized animal characters, often portrayed in sexualized fashion. A sampling of this person's content can be found on the Twitter account ebchimera_adult. I might add that these images are not for the faint of heart. It is cartoon pornography, but it depicts various grotesque acts of bestiality. That this person produces grotesque cartoon hentai-style pornography is significant, as it is seemingly the only account with which Victoria has engaged publicly, deeming this person's content worthy of a reblog, and that according to the district attorney, Rex Heuermann himself searched specifically for hentai porn, searches which the DA described as sadistic. While Victoria's likes on Tumblr are not available for public review, some counts are, she has chosen not to make hers public. We can look to the list of accounts she follows to inform us as to what kinds of images Victoria is viewing. Upon examination of the roster of accounts Victoria follows on Tumblr, nearly every account is focused on the circulation of furry art and images. Victoria has a preference for furry pornographic material and dark, macabre art as seen on various accounts, and I'll go into some of these accounts right now. There's Ebony Chimera, a furry porn content creator, NIEH Furry, a furry content and furry porn creator. I Guess I Should Be Thankful, a furry porn and furry content creator who links to a fan fiction account of theirs on a website called Archive of Our Own, which publishes explicit content. This person's works and bookmarks displays a preference for fan fiction with the self-described themes of graphic depictions of violence, rape, child abuse, strangulation, underage prostitution, asphyxiation, and rough sex. Squeak Squad 524, a blog which describes itself as an art blog of Yiffertons, Yif and its derivations being slang terms used by furries to refer to pornographic content of anthropomorphic animal characters. Lilera, the account from which most of these images come, and it's an account which circulates disturbing images of gore, violent pornography, and other fetish content. The content creator describes themselves and their blog and their bio as a gore whore, with content warnings, self-described as extreme gore, hard vor, violence extreme, vor being cannibalistic imagery of a victim eaten alive. This is to quote the dictionary, the prey's flesh being ripped, chewed, or bitten, resulting in horrific injuries and often loss of life. According to a translator familiar with Scandinavian languages with whom we consulted, Victoria's account handle Vinan de Madtur may itself be an allusion to eating and consumption A disturbing reference when considered in the context of the hard vor fetish content Victoria views and follows.
I'm going to take you through a few points. The rest of them speak for themselves. But if you don't mind, there are many pictures besides what I'm showing you that she's looked at that are equally as bad, if not worse. We just thought these...
You're off mic, John.
I'm off mic, so I'm going to shop. Because I'm going to have to
really
go to
loud.
these...
You want to talk on the mic and then explain it? What do you?
If
Shall I
you-
just stay there and point?
Yeah.
All right, I'll try.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you talk on the mic and say which picture and then we edit
you
the
say?
picture.
All right, fair enough. I have to be able to see them. That's the trouble.
Do you want me to bring them to you?
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
yeah. The hanging one
You can hold them right behind them.
right there. Thank you. That's a good idea. We chose these pictures because of the significance in relation to Rex Heuermann as well as his daughter Victoria. Take a look. It's people hanging. That's what she's looking at. But look particularly at this particular person hanging. There's a shoe missing. Sandra Castilla was found with a shoe missing. This seems to be a fetish that was indulged in by Rex Heuermann, a fetish that is depicted and looked at by his daughter. That's a connection. Yep. Perhaps this is a stretch and perhaps not, but look at the hairstyle. And consider Rex Heuermann's hairstyle. But this is a picture of a person who's hung. Remember that Rex Heuermann is using points to hang people. This person is hung and disemboweled with a knife that's in the picture. Yep. This appears to be the remains of a human being that looks half-eaten. Remember that Victoria Heuermann is on the internet reading words and looking at pictures that deal with hard vor. That is to say, cannibalism. If you look at the full color packet I gave you, there are other pictures in there that are so atrocious we didn't even put them up. Worse than what you see. Of people eating human flesh. In this picture, if you look, it has a strange familiarity when you see it because the torso shows that the arm is chopped off at the elbow. And the head is, of course, disconnected as well. And the body is being cut up into pieces, the hands, and so on. Who does that match? Jessica Taylor? Valerie Mack? Entire slicing up as if it were for food. This is a picture of a female human body, completely disemboweled in the front, with her entrails hanging over her vagina and her legs chopped off. Some of the things that she was reading about, which I'm going to put before you in a moment, some of the things she's reading about was how, when these bodies were disemboweled and cut up, the torturer would have sex with the openings, such as in the leg. That's what she's reading about. And then, yep. This is very interesting. Here is a woman. There is a woman who's completely garroted by the horns of a deer head, which is a favorite theme in this picture she's looking at, deer. They have to do with witchcraft. And you can see what's happened to the woman. But notice, there's a marsh in the background, and this woman is laying on her back, just as Shannon Gilbert was found. Make of that what you will. In your packet, the picture there is actually artwork produced by Victoria. If you look, there's this horrifying monster with blood eating on the breast of this woman who has a furry butt plug hanging out the back. She produced this art. Yeah, thanks. What text are you talking about? Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you. You'll notice in one of the other pictures there's a room that looks like a basement with blood all over. Sound familiar? Does it match Massapequa Park? Quite possibly.
Ron, could you repeat that, please?
Sorry?
Could you repeat that?
It's hard to repeat. I'm doing it by... This is a picture of what appears to be a basement with blood all over it. Remind you of the basement in Massapequa Park? I won't show them all. I don't need to. Body of a man with the arms and legs sliced off and chopped in half. Interesting, take a look at the neck of this person being chopped up. The neck is not just pierced, it's cut open. Think about Shannon Gilbert and her hyoid bone. Here's what she's reading. Don't be scared, because I said I wanted to crack open your chest and play in your blood. I'm not a scary person. Murder is very romantic.
Who said that?
By the way, remember, her father is looking at the same items.
What did I miss?
If you don't learn how to pull hair properly, you can easily snap someone's neck. If your communication and self-insight isn't on fucking point, dark kinks easily just become self-harm or abuse. If you tie the rope without EMT shears in reach, you're trying irresponsibly. If you're playing with drowning or waterboarding, a 2-second fuck up can kill.
I'm gonna have to come back and watch this later.
Cannibal
I mean,
picture.
What the hell?
Here they are feasting on human flesh. And there's the human flesh being taken apart for food.
Bro, what the hell is going on?
Reading. It's entitled Brutalized, brackets, Hot Sexy. Being drowned in a bathtub, bonus points if it's full blood. Throat bit and crushed in someone's teeth. Arms skinned and someone pulling on your tendons to force your fingers to move. Hands being stepped on and broken.
Daughter?
Making out with mouths full of blood. Bonus points if it's your blood and you're forced to drink it. Stabbed while in a crushing embrace that starts to break your ribs. Wrapped in electric barbed wire. High-powered shock collar and muzzle. Sedation. Enough to be in a dreamy haze while you're taken apart. Blindfolded, muzzle tied down while someone cuts you open and plays with your organs. Arms strapped down, multiple needles left in, full of drugs, while your killer explains the plans for your tonight as they prepare your body. Punched in the mouth, bruises, body cut up, played with, and left broken to die. And then the instruments. Just like the instruments described in what the district attorney released of Mr. Heuermann's work. These are posts that did she repost these? These are the posts, circulated by blogs that she follows. Listen, yes, it's technically illegal to keep a person chained to the wall in your basement. Use their holes, H-O-L-E-S, holes, whenever you please, and treat them as nothing but an object for your pleasure. But you're not a person, so what's the problem? These are sex toys. These are for sex, a bone saw. He had a collection of these items or similar items. Chains with points, hard points. He used hard points. He refers to it.
Here's a scrunchie.
The inside of my brain looks like this. A basement with a bed and blood all over it. Massapequa Park. Now take those things that I've just shown you, and let me read you this first, and then I have something else I want to tell you.
Are they quotes from her?
These are quotes from what she's reading. Okay? By the way, we don't have more than what I'm showing you for one very good reason. We have found that it appears that she erased all of her sites that she had, all of her social media. She just missed these ones. And her mother, we try to get her mother's similarly, all erased, except for Twitter.
Always Twitter.
Now, the district attorney himself makes a list in his latest indictment papers of what Rex Heuermann is looking at. And amongst them, there are 26 of them that he lists, but I'll just hit some that matter in relation to these photos and what was said. on the blogs that she was looking at. Quote, girl begging for rape porn. Teen girl begging for rape porn. Pretty girl with bruised face porn. Remember the picture of the bruised face woman or girl in his house. Torture redhead porn.
You know it's supposed
She's
to
a
be-
redhead, the daughter. 10-year-old school girl. Lips cut off. Skinny redhead tied up and raped. Girl hog-tied torture porn. Match what you heard there with what you've seen here and heard from what she said. And they're almost the same, or they are the same. Mr. Tierney says, newly discovered searches include, these are the films he's looking at, or that Heuermann's looking at. Hung by tits. Ball gag. And we have pictures that she was looking at of ball gags with blood all over the face of the person who has it. They were both interested in ball gags. Medieval torture of women speaks for itself. Long Island Mistress BDSM. We also know all these pictures speak for themselves as BDSM, and we know that Heuermann spent time, we know now, in Manhattan clubs in BDSM situations. For example, a place called Pandora's Box. When you take all of these things collectively, are you going to be able to reasonably say, well, just circumstantial evidence? Who knows whether the mother really knew what was going on in the house? Who knows whether Mr. Heuermann had anything to do with what happened to his daughter? You can take one inference is that this poor girl was brought up in this sickness. And don't think for 1 minute, from what you now know, that Rex Heuermann was cutting people up, removing their hands and heads and so on, just so that he could avoid identification. That isn't even true. We know he left the tattoos on, he sliced them up. He knew very well he could have just cut them off and he didn't. He's not caring too much about identification, although he is that too. He's enjoying what he's doing. Look at what he is reading, what his daughter is reading, what they're observing. It's BDSM to the max. And it's demonic. How else do you describe it? This house, are you surprised at the way it looked? It matches the demonic life that they're living there. Why do you think they haven't left after they know that murdered bodies were in that home? There's much more to be said on that. I say to you, you draw the inferences. You draw the inferences. But how can you escape some meaning to what we have discovered? How can you escape it? As I said, you can tell from this, we're the gatekeepers. We're in pursuit of the killers. We know from one witness that I've already produced to the district attorney's office, who was vetted by Commissioner Rodney Harrison, police commissioner, and found to be credible. We know that Shannon Gilbert was in the Sayville Motor Lodge with Rex Heuermann. There's a connection between her and him. We know something that has never to this day been addressed by the Heuermann family lawyers, nor for that matter by the district attorney. And that is that I was able in January to check out the alibi that Mrs. Heuermann and children were in Atlantic City when Maureen Brainerd Barnes disappeared in July of 2007. We talked to the night manager, and I say we, myself and 3 witnesses who are present here today, 3 eyewitnesses We spoke to the night manager for that hotel, and we checked out whether or not the Heuermann family had checked in when they would have had the alibi. They did not. They checked in not on on July 6th. They checked in on July 17th. And she read it to us off the computer that she had in front of her twice. And I brought this up, and you heard the lawyers, Mr. Matev and Mr. Macedonio, say, John Ray's a liar, and they'll prove it. That was 200 and some odd, how many days ago now? Since January? And you never heard another word from them, did you? And I'm awaiting the district attorney's look into that. We're the gatekeepers. For all the facts and circumstances. And remember what the commissioner of Suffolk County Police Department said. If you don't want to talk to the police for any reason, call John Ray. I'm operating under that official blessing. And I'm not giving up. And you can see why. These people are in our society. They're cannibals. They're monsters. They're human devils. They're evil. The Heuermanns are part of that package. Now with me, I mentioned Dr. Brucato, who's here to address some of the things that I have just now mentioned. Gary?
First of all, is everyone hearing me all right?
Yes, because.
Everyone hearing me well?
Yes.
So first of all, thank you to Mr. Ray and his team and to all of you. And I'll begin my comments by saying that it is important that we dedicate everything we're doing today to the victims. I think it's very important to do that, to remember that we're not interested in the titillating details of what an offender has done as much as trying to prevent those horrible things from happening in the future by understanding these people. I think it's also important to mention that I have not examined Mr. Heuermann, his daughter, his wife, or any other member of the family, and the comments I'm going to make are general about the trends in these kinds of offenders and what we might be able to gauge about someone who may be potentially joining the ranks of that type of individual here. First of all, when people are charged with offenses, repeat murder, you don't get hauled into court, under a charge of serial killing, right? But it is important to understand when there is a pattern of serial killing that is alleged, we can learn a great deal about what the likely motive is of the individual and understand a lot about the individual's psychology. The vast majority of people who meet criteria for serial killing are sexually motivated. And I want you to understand that we have to envision a circle in which there are individuals that repetitively commit sexual assault against other individuals, but don't kill. Within that circle is a smaller group of individuals who are sadistic toward the individuals that they are assaulting, brutalizing them in every imaginable way, but do not kill them. Within that circle is a smaller group that proceed to actually kill the individuals, sometimes to get rid of witnesses, sometimes because the force is too much and someone passes away, and sometimes because this now becomes part of the thrill. But within that circle is the rarest of all, which is a sexually sadistic serial killer who kills after protracted, prolonged torture in every imaginable way. And it is in that tiny circle that we would be placing Mr. Heuermann if he is indeed guilty. It is important to understand that individuals like that are motivated partially by sadism and partially by a kind of intellectual boredom, a stimulation. People of that type, for example, can look at all kinds of things and collect all kinds of things and do all kinds of things to keep it interesting for themselves. And as a consequence, evolve and do all manner of things to their victims to learn about what happens to bodies, to see what causes the greatest thrill. Now, regarding the things that have been spoken about today, it is important to understand that about 80%, it is estimated, of serial killers operate alone. But that leaves, by some estimates, 20% that do operate with other people. Though it can be a group of people, that are all interested in the same perversions. That can be a wife or a partner, significant other. That can be one's own child. In that small circle of cases, which incidentally do not include any in the state of New York that I'm aware of prior to this, where an individual actually has what may be a torture chamber or an isolated place where individuals are brought. For example, you remember from the document reference to hard points. Hard points are those little screws that you hang a variety of tools on, like in a garage. You have to imagine a situation in which a woman would be knocked out and wake up in that kind of chamber with all those instruments around her to be used like a kid in a candy box for sadism and experimentation repetitively. And you have to imagine the potential that that's inside a soundproofed room in one's own home. The rarity of that cannot be emphasized enough. Now, some cases that might be instructive for people to look into, the most important, I think, being the case of David Parker Ray, the sexually sadistic serial killer who had a $100,000 torture chamber soundproofed inside a trailer where women were brought by his own daughter sometimes after she had knocked them out for participation in perversions. Another case you may want to look at is the case of John Wayne Gacy, the sexually sadistic serial killer of boys and young men, because until recently it was thought that he was a lone wolf, and some evidence has emerged more recently that he may have been part of a network that was feeding victims to him. And there are many serial killers of that type, we are learning. There is a tendency to think that these types are lone wolves who can't have relationships with others or engage in crimes with other people. Regarding the things that were spoken about today, as a psychologist, I think it would be important for me to emphasize that we have no clear accusations or proof one way or the other, but there are certainly suggestions that I think must be taken seriously, and there would be precedent for this kind of thing based on other cases. Approximately 1 in 5, according to some experts, of these serial killers do operate that way with other people. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll also say at the end, I'll also like to take a very quick moment to say that I am a member of the Cold Case Foundation on the expert panel. I'll clarify, because I know some people are aware of the name of John Douglas coming up in the bail document as the author of 2 of the books studied allegedly by Heuermann. He is the chairman emeritus of the Cold Case Foundation, which is a group of experts that offers help, assistance to law enforcement, to individuals that petition, families that petition to help solve cold cases. I am sure, given that the average age of onset for people who commit these offenses is about 26, and they don't tend to stop until eliminated or arrested, you can imagine that it would be very improbable that there are only 6 victims in this case, and you can imagine that these individuals would have been kept for some time prior to their killing. I am sure that there are loads of people out there, probably in multiple states, who have encountered this individual, who have potentially escaped this individual, who may have actually been assaulted by the individual or engaged in perverse actions, or may have information on homicides that might in the future be alleged. I would encourage you to please be unafraid to consider prayerfully, thoughtfully reaching out to a group like the Cold Case Foundation, to someone like Mr. Ray, to law enforcement, because when this story is all over, I suspect it will be much more complicated and horrifying than it even appears to be now. Thank you.
What do you make of the
What's that? One more. And then
Please.
we'll do it. Okay. Just keep in mind one or two more things. In the packet that I gave you, the first packet, the black and white, the pictures on the back and are pictures from the book that was on the kitchen table when the police entered in the last warrant, and when Victoria was home alone. That book speaks of death scenes, and those are real gore, real pictures of sex workers chopped up. That's what she had on her kitchen table, and her lawyers say they don't know how to explain it. That's in this too. And one more thing, and that is that after this, can anybody reasonably infer, as we've heard over and over again to the contrary, can anybody reasonably now infer that this man was leading a double life at home? There was no double life. Now we'll answer questions.
So is is it likely that he essentially psychologically trained his daughter to become a serial killer? Is that in the realm of possibility?
I can't speak to this particular case because I have not examined anyone involved. And so far what we have here is circumstantial things that are certainly worth contemplating. I'll say this, among the individuals that do participate with serial killer family members or friends or associates, they seem to divide up into different groups. Some of them have their own perversions and are collaborating because they, in a group, are able to enjoy these things together. And some of them are individuals who have been traumatized or exposed repetitively to these kinds of things and are joining in with the offender, sometimes as a kind of Stockholm syndrome or attempt to survive, sometimes because it's been so desensitized for them that it's become normal in the home or environment in which they're operating. And sometimes there's no relation, that they just are interested in these kinds of unusual things on their own. But you have to take that on a case-by-case basis, and I think it's certainly worth thinking about, because I think we'd agree that what we're seeing here is certainly disturbing.
In his manifest, he used the term play, and apparently Victoria used the same terminology.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that?
Well, it gets to the point that I raised earlier about a lot of this being about stimulation and excitement and fun for these individuals, and the idea is to extend, in the fantasy at least, to extend what is happening to the individual out of a kind of curiosity and amusement, and to keep heightening the thrill the way somebody, for instance, with a drug addiction might do, to need a greater and greater high. And some people can have fantasies like that and leave them at the level of fantasy, and some individuals need to actually spill over into enacting those fantasies. But it's impossible to say, how many people have only the fantasies and how many actually spill over. But fantasies are certainly disturbing. Sorry.
And share those fantasies with a family member?
Well, first of all, there are some situations I'm aware of where that happens, where, as I said, there is normalization within a home to the point that that can happen. But the themes that are here are extreme, even for people who have sexualized or aggressive fantasies, because we're seeing here themes of things like cannibalization, fornication with body parts, dismemberment, mutilation, things like that. It's not just bondage fantasies. It extends all the way over into things that are far more horrifying. And for those things to be normalized, you would have to think about the kind of material a person is exposed to, the kind of pornography they might be exposed to, the kind of talk, books, etc. But I think the jury is out on what this is about. But it's certainly worth thinking about.
John, I apologize. This is obviously very disturbing to all of us, but she's still young. Do you think she was involved in any of the murders, like the go-go tour, helped him at all? Or are you just saying that she may have been doing something, thinking about it in the future? That's not what she's about.
I am not there. I was never there. The police alone have been there in Massapequa Park House. I don't know what else they know. What I'm saying we can infer from this, and it's not the only inference, but it's a very strong inference, is that this girl was made over the course of years somehow to become accustomed to liking what you see here. And that didn't just happen in the air. That happened because somebody did something. And, you can take it from there, take the rest from there. That's what I'm saying. She certainly falls within the circle of suspicion as to some activity that's involved here, not least because we know that her hairs are found on the dead bodies.
If there was no double life like you suggest, are there civil legal ramifications?
There certainly could be civil legal ramifications for the Heuermann family, each of them. They're pretty extensive, I imagine. I'm not looking to pursue them myself. I'm not looking to sue them or have a civil case against them. It's nothing to do with me. But there could very well be, yes.
John,
Are you saying that you believe that Shannon Gilbert was a victim of Heuermann?
I'm not saying that Shannon Gilbert was certainly a victim of Heuermann. I am saying what we do know. And we know if that witness who was credible told the truth, the taxi driver, that Heuermann knew Shannon Gilbert. That he and that makes a lot of sense. If we follow the trail of Heuermann, I know that Heuermann was a very gregarious fellow from the witnesses I've talked to who've come and talked to me and given me statements. And I know that he spent a lot of time in various bars and places where there were strippers and dancers and that sort of thing around Long Island and in New York City. The chances that he came across Shannon Gilbert, besides what the taxi cab driver said, are excellent. She also has a Massapequa entry in her book that we found, her notebook of scheduling. And I point out another thing. That doesn't preclude anything I've said so far regarding my lawsuit that's continuing as we speak. There's connections that could be made there. We don't know. I'm not the police. If they come to me, I'll certainly report them. But it does strike me that when Shannon Gilbert says, the first thing she says on the 911 tapes is, someone is after me. Someone is after me. That means she's being chased. She's being stalked. Rex Heuermann was a stalker. You may remember from the beginning, before I ever knew of Rex Heuermann, I said publicly over and over, there's a hunter involved in this case. Someone was hunting her. He's a hunter. Rex Heuermann turns out to be a very avid hunter. And he belonged to a variety of rifle clubs. We saw a picture, I think, Newsday published. But there's more than that. If you look at the schedule that Ray Tierney put out, you can see that Heuermann, in a period of 2 weeks, was at 3 different hunt clubs. He's a real hunter. He's got 300 guns to do that. I have 3 eyewitnesses who say that he pulled pistols on them, one who says that he shot her right across the back of the neck. He's a hunter with guns. Who knows what else? Start to put those pieces together.
The DA said that the hairs found that matched Victoria's were transferred from Rex to the victims.
I don't think the DA said that the hairs were actually transferred. He speculated that they were transferred. The hairs transferred from Rex Heuermann to the body the hairs that belong to the daughter and the mother. He's speculating at that. He has no way of knowing that for certain. But now when you consider what you've seen and what you know, that might tip the card a little bit in favor of the fact that there might be more to it than just that they fell off of Heuermann. Especially when you notice from the equipment that he took was designed, part of it, to clean up the hairs. And he even said so. And to wear a hairnet.
John, a lot of this art is disturbingly similar to the Gilgo victims, but as far as we can see, none of it was actually made by Victoria Heuermann. Did you look into who the creators of this art might have been?
Yeah, we have. We know that they create this atrocious art for a living, but you're not quite right. Take a look at what I showed you earlier. She created the monster that's eating a woman's breasts with a furry butt plug in the picture. She created that, and that was in line with everything else. So I can't agree with you there. She's in this art.
What does law enforcement say? Have you shared
I cannot hear you, Danielle.
law enforcement saying your information? Have you shared it? Are they following up on this?
What I did was, with this particular information, I notified Ray Tierney. I wrote him a letter, invited his detectives to come here if he wished to the press conference, and invited him to call me so I could do so. I have not heard from him. So we're just going forward with what we have.
You want to share it with them? You want them to follow up?
At every step of the way in this case, I have cooperated with the authorities. I have given them what I'm entitled to give, from other witnesses. The witnesses who come to me, if they don't want their information turned over to the police, I don't do it. But if they give me permission, I always do it. I believe that the proper authority for properly investigating this and getting to the truth is the task force. We good?
Mr. Ray, you've said countless times that all this is for justice for the victims. How is showing these images, just to sum it up, justice for the victims?
Showing these images teaches us that there is a likely connection between Rex Heuermann and his family in these crimes that have been committed, and that the truth is going to reveal that. We don't know how far those connections reach. We do know if they do reach through the family, number one, he's not isolated, he's not acting alone. Number two, therefore, he is not, as I said before, living two lives. But number three, we should start to look at his wife, his daughter, where they went, who they met with. Things, it opens up this door. I have information. I know where his wife went sometimes. So that whole door is now opened. And there's one inference from at least some of the witchcraft things she talked about in her paperwork and so on. There's an inference, it's one inference of many, that there's more than just them, that they're involved with other people in this as well. That needs to be looked at. These people didn't tell the truth. They're misleading us.
John, I have a question. So basically this portrait was created by Victoria. Of all that you've shown us, this is the one she created. Is that correct?
Yeah, the picture of the monster and the woman that I mentioned is created by Victoria. Everything else she erased. We don't know what else there is, but we do know that.
So was this found in the house and taken out by detectives?
I don't believe it was found in the house, but I don't have their inventory. I don't know. But that's on, we connected it, as Lena has told you and explained to you, and we're giving you that explanation in detail for your use because I know it was highly technical. You can see that she can connect that with the other things that Victoria was looking at.
And are you sure she created it and not just posted it?
Her signature actually appears on it.
Doc,
Okay.
can you just say and spell your name?
Yeah, sure. I'm John Ray, Johnnray. Now the doctor?
Dr. Gary Brucato, Gary, B as in boy, Rucato.
And Doctor, you're with Boston College. If you can just tell us your credentials again.
Sure. I'm currently a visiting scholar at Boston College, where I conduct forensic research with Dr. Ann Burgess. And I'm in private forensic practice, and I'm in private practice for general psychotherapy at Clarity Therapy in New York City.
Psychiatrist or psychologist?
I'm a clinical psychologist and an author and researcher specializing in violent crime and severe mental illness.
If you need a packet, if you didn't get one, just give us your email. We'll give it to you. We have it. So you can have everything. Okay, thank you.
Don, what about these pictures out here?
Yes.
They're in the packet?
They're in the packet. Yep.
Depictions of cannibalism, dismemberment, and violent pornography. Part of the circumstantial evidence put forth, keyword circumstantial. Digital content allegedly shared online by Rex Heuermann's daughter, Victoria, but what are the legal implications, and do you believe that it has any connection whatsoever to the serial killings themselves on Long Island? Questions we're going to interactively examine here from the Stream Center.
I think later today after the trial at some point, I'm trying to with the trial, trying to kind of make sure I'm good, not overdo it. But I have to come back and actually listen to this because honestly, the few minutes that I looked at this, it looked crazy as hell, bro. I was like, what in the hell is going on? I only looked at a few minutes out of the hour. So I think maybe we'll come back later and react on the main channel. If you want to come hang out. If not, because you saw it already, I understand. But I'm thinking this is just crazy. It's just crazy. But all right, guys. So I'm gonna go back to the main. Thank you so much. This I just can't believe how many like things keep adding on to the story. More bodies, more victims, and like all this weird family stuff. Like, what the hell? Like, yo, he said they were cannibals? Because I did see one part they were talking about like flesh, and he showed pictures like, oh, this is like the flesh when they're eating flesh or something. That's what I sometimes I even wonder like, is that stuff like the like somebody wanting to kill or do hit like horrible things, murder? Is some of that stuff hereditary? Like, does it run in the family sometimes? Because I remember Jeffrey Dahmer's dad said he used to have thoughts, but he never acted on it. And you know, we all know Jeffrey Dahmer what he did. Um, what? That is so crazy. And I missed the furries part. Yeah, I saw you guys talking in chat about the butt plug furries. They showed way more than just flesh. Yeah, because somebody was telling me I needed to put a warning, but I couldn't see what they were showing. Oh my god! Like I said earlier, I joked around about this guy a little bit because I called him the pimp attorney, just because he has really nice suits. And the one of the last press conferences I saw, this guy was crazy, but he was speaking facts because I pulled up the information about that cop in Pickle Park. That this cop was going to Pickle Park, and I'm like, what the hell is Pickle Park? Apparently, it's parks where guys go that are, guys into guys, I guess, but they're like hooking up or something, and they meet at parks to hook up. Pickle Park. I'm like, what? I don't know. The guy's been on point, I have to say. I think. Yeah, not hereditary. So you don't think it passes down? Maybe because like does mental illness sometimes do that too? Like pass down? Oh my god. Delayed flesh. They might even that's why somebody on the main page was like, Mel, they're probably gonna take her video down. But I don't know. Holy crap. The ponytail lawyer is legit, but I don't like his way of speaking. Yeah, he's kind of brash. Like, yeah, he's kind of the pickup art thing had me. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. And then I looked it up. The cop caught at Pickle Park. SJ, never go to a park called Pickle Park. I didn't know that was a thing. I guess it's like a meeting spot or something. I guess. I don't, but like why? I don't know. I guess people do that, but like why random hookups? Like isn't that kind of dangerous? STDs or whatever. You're just meeting people at random places to hook up. I guess. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I'm gonna go back in the main. I'll come back late. Let's do this later if you're interested. Let's react. I'm afraid to see this later, but I have to come back because the last time I saw this guy, I was shocked, and this is the same. It seems like, and really sad for those victims. This guy, the serial killer, Long Island serial killer, it seems like maybe he targeted people in the sex industry. And anytime I hear of a story like that, it always reminds me of the California killer, Lonnie or something. Lonnie, he targeted like black sex workers. And so, like, for a long time, nobody was paying attention to them. What's his name? Lonnie Walker? The Grim Reaper, I think. Grim Reaper, California. That's the name they dubbed him. And so, for a long time, he had killed Grim Sleeper. Grim Sleeper. For a long time, he had targeted all these women. He looks crazy as shit. I think he literally had pictures and stuff and like photo albums of these people he killed. And for a long time, seems like these cops or nobody in society really gave a shit about these women because I guess they were sex workers and black. Crazy ass story. True. It could even be a members thing. That's true, Deborah, because I don't know if they're going to block the video or not. Ashley. Oh, is that how it happened too? They caught his son and led to him. Ooh. That familial uh genealogy, like DNA thing, familial, like they'll trace down your family and shit, kind of somebody in your family. Oh, really? KLF says victims' family members have dropped off John Ray as their attorney because of the way. Really? Hmm. Yeah, did something happen? I know people were talking about this guy and they were saying things, and I get it. Like they didn't like the way he said certain things, but I think he's on to something. He's definitely on to something. Crazy. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Bye. Peace. Bloop, 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 bloop. Golden State Killer. Yes, 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 yes. Golden State Killer. Another Cali person. Bye.